Today on Plug and Play, we're going to be checking out Mjolnir Drums from Solemn Tones. What's up everyone, Craig Peters here, and today on Plug and Play we're going to be checking out Mjolnir Drums from Solemn Tones. Now, Solemn Tones you've probably seen me do a review of before in the past. I think it's probably the last episode of Plug and Play that we've done in a while. So Maxim from Solemn Tones hit me up, said, hey, you want to check out Mjolnir Drums? I said yes. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And this library is supposed to be a ready, right out of the box drum sample library. It's supposed to be really easy to get good sounds, stuff that sounds punchy. I'm going to be the judge of that today. I'm going to show you guys how I processed it, how I used it, and yeah, we're just going to go from there and see how it sounds. I did a quick mix. I did like a 30-minute mix of it, and we're going to check it out and see how it holds up. So let's check it out and then we'll break it down. Alright, so that's the mix that I did using Mjolnir Drums. Let's go ahead and start checking out the interface. I'm going to show you guys pretty much what's going on here. When you open it up, this is how it looks. Well, it actually doesn't look this big. You can adjust the size of it, except I don't know how to make it smaller. I just know how to make it bigger. So pretty much this is how it looks for now. But pretty much the way it's laid out, it's kind of like some of the drum libraries you're familiar with. You know, you have your drum kit on the front. You can test out some of the sounds. Down here you have a quick little sort of bus fader area where you have sort of, you know, your kick, your snare, your toms grouped out, and your cymbals. And then you have your mixer window. You can see where the routing is, and then the humanize. Pretty simple, pretty easy laid out. Up here you have your different presets. Let's go ahead and check out the mixer window. So pretty much here it's laid out like a mixer, how you would expect. You have your kick, your snare, toms, china, 2 crashes, a hi-hat, a ride, and a splash. My only gripe with this, and it's usually the same gripe I have with a lot of drum sample libraries, is only having 3 toms. I prefer to have at least 4 or more, just for me, just because just how I like to write drum parts, I guess. Not to say there's anything wrong with that. Maybe if you like just having 3 toms, then this is perfect for you. But, you know, like I said, that's just me. So you have down here another little mixer area where you control the overall room volume, the direct volume, and the master. Pretty easy. One of the really cool things I like about this library is right here you see the invert pan. And that's pretty cool, and pretty much what that is, it's a instant switch to drummer perspective or audience perspective in the way that it's panned. So if, let's say you have a drummer who's like, man, I want it panned like from my perspective because, you know, I don't know, that's the way they want to hear it. You can easily do that. You can check both and see which sound better for what you're doing. I think that's a cool option. That's actually an option that I like to see in drum sample libraries. You know, the mixer up here, it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think we really need to go into that too much. You have your main view, which is where we're at. So let's now go to the routing. This is where you can get a little bit more hands-on with some of the different, how you want to route it and how you want to change the different MIDI notes. Up here, for all you guys who use drum sample libraries in Kontakt, I know and I feel your pain on how shitty it is trying to do the routing in Kontakt. The cool thing about this, being that it's a standalone plugin, is the routing is very similar to like if you have Superior Drummer or something like that. It's really easy, and there's 2 routing presets. You have 1 stereo output and then the 12 separate outputs. The way I go about using this is I use the 12 separate outputs because it's pretty much, you know, like if you look over here, let me go ahead and close this actually. I have all of them laid out. So you see I have my kick, snare, tom 1, tom 2, tom 3. And that's just so, here, I'll play it a little bit and then you'll see how, let me find a different part. See how they all have their own little individual volume. And what's great about that is you can do your own processing. This is supposed to be a right out of the box, ready to go drum sample library. I did have to tweak it for what I'm kind of going for. There are some things about it that I wanted to modify that wasn't, you know, as punchy as I wanted it to be. But, you know, by, you know, doing some different processing, using compressors and busting some stuff out, grouping tracks and Cubase, doing a little bit of parallel compression, that kind of thing. So that said, let's go ahead and go back into the interface again. So yeah, you can go ahead and you can change all this out to have it routed. And then if, let's say, you have a certain MIDI map that you use for your drum programming, if these don't line up to it, you can change it right here. So that's pretty cool. And that's basically it for the interface. Oh, let's go back. Also, the humanize feature. This is supposed to be, so if, let's say, you just go ahead and flatline your velocities at 127, you can use the humanize function. You can dial it up as much as you want to give it the illusion of more a humanistic feel. I already sort of did that with these drums. I already had them, you know, some are shifted off the grid and the velocities were different. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna test this out later and we're gonna see how good this actually works. But for now, I just have it all the way down and I have my drums all velocitied out the way I normally do it. Let's go into the mixer. I'm gonna show you guys a little bit what I did. So here is everything laid out. For the kick, I did some EQ, I did some compression, I used R-Bass for just kind of giving a little bit more low end. And then I used JST clip. So that's pretty much all I really did for the kicks. I also did some parallel compression, sending this out to a parallel compression track. I also have this, let me go ahead and get rid of all this. I also have the kick side chained to track spacer, which is on my bass track, just for sort of clearing up some of the low end. Going into the snare, let's go ahead and let's listen to this too. Now, I really like the way the snare sounds in this. I mean, overall, the drums sound pretty good for what it is. I really like the snare has a really nice cracky sound to it. Even if you were to use this as just, if you were overlaying it over a real snare and you were using MIDI to just, you know, place it under where the transients are for a real snare. I mean, it would cut through and I think it would help for if you have a snare that doesn't really pop that well. The sound of these drums kind of reminds me of that like Joey Sturgis sort of like modern metal sort of sound. That's kind of what I get from it. So, I mean, if you're into that more like overproduced, like these drums sound a bit overproduced when you first get them. Like if you look at them on a spectrograph, you'll see that, you know, they're already sort of scooped and, you know, processed for you, which is to help you sort of get that quick sound right out of the box. But if you are looking for some more real organic sounding drums, this might not be the drum library for you. Me personally, I tend to like sounds that are a little bit more natural. But I mean, if you want, you know, just like some, you know, processed sounds that just sort of like punch through pretty easily, this will be a library you might want to check out. Also, for the snare, the way I processed it, I used some EQ. I did a high pass, I did a little bump around 200, did a little scoop, and then I did a little bit of a boost. So let's go ahead and just listen to how it sounds. I'm gonna go ahead and turn all this up. Now I'm gonna leave the clip on, and then I'm gonna turn all this off. Let's check it out. So yeah, basically just doing some EQ, some compression just to sort of make the snare pop a little bit more. And then I also have another instance of JST clip on here. just to sort of, you know, maximize it a little bit more in volume, punch it up a little bit. It's pretty much as far as the cymbals, I did a little bit of EQ. I also did some JSD clip and some compression on the toms. For the parallel compression, you know, I just did a little bit more compression just to sort of, like if we listen to just the parallel compression track, so it's pretty smashed. Actually, you know what? I think I want to put some cymbals in there too, actually. Let's go ahead and... just to get a little bit of cymbals in there too. If we want to go ahead and listen to how these sound with no processing, we can do that too. Let's go ahead and check that out. So, I mean, it's not really that much different. I'm just sort of kind of taking what's there and bringing it to life a little bit more. And that's pretty much it for that. Let's go ahead now and check out the humanizing feature. We're gonna test this out. We're gonna see how much it works. All right, so we are in our MIDI roll, piano roll, getting our roll on. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna max these out. So let's hear how this sounds now. It's gonna sound not very real at all. I mean, definitely very punchy, but we want it to sound a little bit more human. So let's go ahead and put this to the test. I'm gonna go ahead and solo these out too. I wanna hear how it sounds. So we can obviously hear 10s a little too much. Let's go and bring it at like a little under half. Hear it in the mix. I think it works pretty well, actually. That's actually pretty cool. So my only gripe with this library really is, you know, it could have, you know, if it had one more tom, I would have been a little bit more stoked on it, but it's still good. The humanize feature is really cool. The only thing about this when I first got it is basically the way it's loaded up. It was a little too much room, a little too wet sounding for what I like. I usually like to have my drums a little bit drier and then sort of process them how I want using another reverb. Actually, I'm using verbiage on my snare. And then, so I mean, I do like having a room and I like to sort of compress it and then bring it into the mix how I want. But the way it comes stock loaded in, it's a little too heavy on the room for me, but you can adjust that with using all the different presets and stuff up here. So as of right now, Mjolnir Drums goes for $69.99, which is not that bad for the sounds that you're getting with this library. I think that's a pretty hell of a deal. Right now it's on sale. I don't know how long it's going to be on sale for. So if you are thinking of getting this, you definitely want to strike now on that. All right, so that about wraps it up for Mjolnir Drums. If you guys want to get any more information on this library, head over to solemntones.com. And if you want to check out any of their other products, I actually did a review of the Odin Guitar VST, which is a guitar MIDI sample library, which you can, you know, use your own amp sims and stuff for getting a more realistic guitar tone with actually not having to play it, which is nice for us lazy guitar players, or for just people who aren't guitar players in general and want to start writing some music. So if you're looking to get a guitar and some drum sounds, check them out. Until next time, I will see you guys later. If you like this video, let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments in the bottom, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.